Hello, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Janie, and my husband Cliff and I have been very busy the past few months. We hope you enjoyed a recap of our fall flying. We have quite a few updates on both life and our van's RV-7A project. When we last left off, Cliff and I were bringing the wings home from the airport to our one-car garage, where we'll be doing the majority of this project. The trips went smoothly, and although we were nervous to see how much room they take up, as you can see, they fit beautifully, and we've actually enjoyed working on them in the wing stands. We've not gotten as much done in the garage as we'd like, but we have put in our fair share of research outside the garage, and that's really a huge part of getting into this build. But more on that later. Before Christmas, Cliff studied for and passed his inspector authorization exam. If you're not familiar with the IA, it's essentially the highest aviation mechanic privileges given by the FAA. It allows an A&P to perform annual inspections as well as return to service aircraft after major repairs and alterations. In other words, it's huge, and I can brag on Cliff a little and say that he passed with a 98%, so we're proud of him. In addition, I started an art endeavor selling my aviation paintings, which has been fun, challenging, and definitely kept me busy, especially around the holidays. Now, we have several areas for the RV build that we want to talk about in this video, starting with the plans. You do not receive a separate set of plans if you have a quick build versus a slow build. So for us, this meant that we needed to sift through what had already been done by the factory and what we still needed to do. We chose for now to highlight the areas that had already been done, so that's what those highlighted areas mean. These are the plans you'll receive for the kit. And these are the plans for the wings. Our first project, the aileron brackets. It's amazing how you can be on a roll with a project and then all of a sudden you hit a roadblock. Well, ours was in the form of this deburring cage being too wide and the extension being too short to complete the aileron bracket. So we had to order a longer one as shown here, and that did waste a few days, but we finally got it done and back to the project. Here you see the plans for the bell crank, which you have to assemble prior to mounting it on the spar. The parts are all in the kit, but you do have to machine that little aluminum bushing. I think this little assembly is so cool since it's what connects the ailerons to your control stick. Next we have the aileron push rods, which the plans say to prime the inside and to swirl it around, so that's what Cliff is doing so carefully in this shot. Here we are working on the aileron gap fairings. This was a fun night in the garage. We drilled, machine countersunk, deburred, primed, and finally we riveted the fairings on, at which point we were finally ready to mount the ailerons. So this is the aileron. This is how it comes. Comes pretty much done. You just have to install the aileron brackets on both sides, and this was actually our second roadblock because this is the number 12 bit. It's not quite long enough to reach in there, so you're going to need the longer length to actually get in to drill these out. So make sure you have those. So we're just going to go ahead and mount these to the wings, and that'll be it. The aileron centering jig. This is something that you make. In the slow build, I believe you make it at the beginning as you prep to build the wings, but the directions are kind of spread around in the plans. Essentially, you need a straight edge that won't bend, and you mount it to the wingtip.
Alright, so we're going to install the push tubes that connect to the ailerons. And we're going to use the bell crank jig that they send to adjust these to the final size to center the ailerons, and then we can do the flaps. These are tested on the bench, where we measured them to 27 5/8, which is kind of the starting point for that. Once those are in, then we'll be able to adjust them to get the ailerons to actually center. We're gonna mostly get done the flap brace. So we already deburred everything, we prepped it, we machine countersunk the edge that's gonna be against the skins of the plane. We machine countersunk the inside where it goes through the spar per the plans. It wanted it to be countersunk for those three. We also cut the part so that it doesn't rub against the spar per the plans. And that's about it. Let's do it. So this is basically how the aileron comes from Vans. Everything's done, they look good, all the rivets are good. And then the only thing we did was cut off one of the pieces of the hinges so that we can do option number 2 for installing the flaps onto the wing. Basically, you have the piano hinge here. So this goes in. You want 1/4 inch spacing between the skin and the aileron. You want to make sure the hinge ends. We put the bottom skin on for this. It actually flexes more than you would want. And then also we did a straight edge to make sure this lines up nicely. So let's install the flap.
So for the technical part of the build and the wiring of the wings, I did manage to get Cliff to come on, so he's going to talk us through the wiring and a little bit about our panel.
Hello. So here's what you get from Vans. You get a clean slate to do whatever you want, from VFR to IFR, from simple to as complex as you want it. We decided on Garmin just because that's what we want, and we also want it to be IFR. So while a panel like this is great, we want this airplane to bring us around the country with those marginal weather days not stopping us, so IFR is a must. Here's what we need for the wings. Landing and taxi lights, nav and strobe lights, the pitot tube, the VOR antenna, the autopilot servo, and our magnometer. Jane and I went to Oshkosh 2022 with the mindset of let's try to finalize who we're going to go with the panel and what kind of lights we want. So after looking at all the vendors there, we went with Air LEDs and Stein Air. So as far as the wingtips, we went with the Pulsar nav strobe lights. These lights are pretty cool. We actually are probably going to end up putting them on the Citabria. We had to do the nav strobe because the position light can't go on it because it's got to go on the tail with the type of wingtip it has. But we love these lights. We can't wait to install them. We have the Aero Sun wingtip lights. Within it, it has the landing light and the taxi light. Also has a wig-wag feature, so this plane will be very noticeable flying through the sky. For most of our panel work, we had put our name down with Steinair. They reached out to us pretty much right away, and we decided we wanted to go with them just because their customer service was amazing. So a couple weeks ago, we started an email back and forth. We put our order together for our wing stuff. They're going to be sending us the harness, the wires, pretty much everything we need to get the wings ready to put that final bottom skin on, install the wing tips, and get them back out to the airport. So we will actually be receiving an amazing package from them, which is going to include our GMU 11 magnometer. This is going the right wingtip. This is basically what gives the heading to the G3X. Also in the right wing, we have our autopilot servo. So the harness that Stein is doing for us is going to go from the GMU 11 to the autopilot servo and then to the wing group. In the other wing, we have our nav antenna. This is going in the wingtip, has a coax cable that runs out to it. So that will be something that we install a little bit later on when we start the wingtips. Also in the left wing, we have our GAP 26 heated pitot tube with AOA. We're going with the unregulated one, just preference. We don't want the extra equipment of the regulated one. As far as getting everything from wing root to the wing tip, we're going with the ducting that Van sells. It's basically 3/4 of an inch thick, and it goes through each rib in a precise location. So we drilled them out. We're going to be running the conduit soon. We're actually looking forward to the snapping sound that everyone says sounds horrible bringing it through. So that's going to be a fun task to be doing probably this week.
Thank you to everyone that took the time to watch this video. There has been a lot of time researching for the build, and in the next video we're excited to do more hands-on work, like removing the gas tanks, pressure testing them, installing the wiring and equipment we spoke about, and getting it to the point of mounting the bottom skins on. If you can take one thing from this video to help your build, or even just enjoy it for entertainment, we will be happy, and it makes creating this channel worth it to us. For now, please subscribe, and we'll be back soon.